Well, hello, Carol Ann. This is a nice presentation with your painted color wheel. I'd like you to take a look at the area called Some Pointers with regard to your violets, blue, and greens. And I'd also like you to think about interval. Is the interval too great between yellow and yellow-green, for example? Maybe it's too little between yellow-green and green. Now, your digital color wheel looks lovely. The RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are all good. Um, the other colors are fully saturated. But I'd like you to check magenta. And also, I think since we're working with the grid guides and snapping, I'd like you to check to see how blue and green align. Hi Betty, this is a nice painted color wheel. I can see you took a lot of care in preparing this. Um, I think you're struggling with violets, and that's not an easy thing to manage. As I was just saying to Carol Ann, take a look at my pointers there in the assignment. Be sure to expand that area. Um, I'm wondering if your blue-green might be just a little bit dark, and is there white in your yellow-orange? You wouldn't want to put white there, though I am recommending that you add a tiny touch to your ultramarine blue when mixing your violets. Now, the colors in the digital color wheel do look good. I wish there was a way to differentiate the primaries and secondaries from the other intermediate ones. I like your creative design. I have to hand it to you and Carol Ann and others in your class who've come up with some beautiful designs. Hi Natalie, your painted color wheel looks quite good here. Um, I'm wondering if the colors from green to red violet look just a tiny bit dark. And what I do with your greens is add more yellow. And what I do with any color with ultramarine blue in it is add a tiny touch of white. Um, Now, for your digital color wheel, the RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are right on. This is a lovely creative design, and I like the way that you've emphasized those primaries and secondaries. One small thing you could do is check to see how things line up when you zoom in. I'm looking at the point of the cyan color and some of the others near to it, and I'm wondering if those could all be aligned. Blueford, your layout for the painted color wheel varies a little from the template. However, the colors all look really good. With your digital color wheel, your RGB values are all fully saturated. I'd like you to omit stroke in your files until we get to week 5. And I do want you to check the saturation with the intermediate colors and possibly move the cyan circle down a little bit so that your design is symmetrical. Hi Mike, this painted color wheel has a neat presentation and the colors are pretty good. I'm wondering if your paint was rather thick for future. I suggest using a tiny bit of water mixed in with your paint so that it's more brushable. Now, I'd like you to double check your red here. This should be a stop sign red, a combination of something like quinacridone and cadmium red light. Hi Nicole, in your painted color wheel, the colors look fairly good. However, the presentation is very poor. And I would like you to revise this and represent it for credit by the end of this week. Now, with your digital color wheel, you are definitely on the right track. The layout is correct in terms of colors. I don't see the ideal RGB colors, and I want you to take a look at the area called Some Pointers in the assignment. If you're having difficulty using the color picker, check in with me and we'll go over that together. Notice that this assignment introduces the grid, guides, and snapping. You should be using those for your layout in this design, and also you'll find them handy for future. Hi Tamara, this painted color wheel looks pretty good. I'd like you to take a look at the area called Some Pointers with regard to your violets here. And I also want you to consider interval. Is the interval between the various oranges and also the greens perhaps too little? Now, with regard to your digital color wheel, you do have the proper arrangement, but the colors aren't all fully saturated. I want you to check and be sure that you can do that with the help of the color picker, for example. And I also want you to verify that you're working in RGB mode and not CMYK. And for more on that, please see the announcement that's titled something like Software, Computers, and Image Preparation, and look to the bottom. Hello, Glennis. Your painted color wheel looks okay. Remember, the object, per the instructions, was to paint on a separate page on cardstock, for example, and then to cut the shapes from that and paste them in place. I think you're having some of the difficulties with violet and green that I talk about in the area called some pointers in the assignment discussion. I'd like you to take a look at your yellow also and notice that the intermediate colors that flank it could show greater influence of yellow. In other words, start with yellow and add the darker color to it for better control. Now, with regard to your digital color wheel, well, this does not meet the assignment. It's not a wheel in terms of colors going around in a circle, and the colors here are not the ones that are needed, nor are they in the proper order. Also, this has the look of clip art, and I want to make it clear that you are to create each design. So what I'd like you to do is go back and create a different piece for this assignment and repost by the end of the week. Well, hi Marissa, this is a neat job presenting your colors for the painted color wheel. You're having some difficulties with violets and greens. Please see the area called some pointers. Now, with regard to your digital color wheel, the colors are not in the proper arrangement. I would like you to revise this and represent it. Please see the area in this discussion called some pointers also. Hi Nicole. I can see that you took a lot of care in assembling this painted color wheel. The interval looks pretty good. Most of the colors are looking a little too yellowish, and I'm wondering if you could do a sort of global color shift in Photoshop. Take a look at my post about scanning. That may give you some ideas. With regard to the violets, see my pointers in the assignment. Click on that heading to expand it. I'm wondering if the oranges could show greater interval here. Well, this digital color wheel looks pretty good. The RGB values for all the primaries and secondaries are just fine, and the colors seem to be fully saturated. My only question here is, why is it that the top and bottom sections don't appear to be symmetrical? That may be a job for your grid and your guides. Hi Jeff, with regard to your painted color wheel, it looks as though you may have used watercolor, and one concern I have there is perhaps the purple was painted from a pre-mixed color. In this assignment, one goal is to mix all of your colors from primaries and secondaries, and there were specific instructions about the paint to be used as well as the neatness for the presentation. Now, with your digital color wheel, I see that you have revised this and it's much better. This is the arrangement for a digital color wheel. There are still some colors that are not fully saturated, and while I see some proper RGB values for the primaries and secondaries, they don't all have just those perfect values. Hi Kim, this is a neat presentation with your painted color wheel. I want you to take a look at the area in the discussion called some pointers. Click on it to expand with regard to your violets here. Could there be more interval between the red and the yellow orange? And now your digital color wheel has good RGB values for the primaries and secondaries. Other colors are fully saturated. I'd like to see you using the grid guides and snapping, as those were introduced with the intention that they'd be used on this assignment. So please put them to use soon in future. Jennifer, this is a neat painted color wheel. I'm wondering if this was touched up digitally with the lines around the edges. Hi Jennifer. This is a neat presentation with your digital color wheel. I would say that your blue-green looks unusually desaturated, and I want you to check the area called some pointers with regard to the violets. This looks like it's been touched up in the software, and I would say with this assignment, it's probably best for everybody to have a purist approach. This is our only painted project, and there are important lessons to be learned from working with the paints with regard to color. Your digital color wheel looks good. All the RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are correct, and the other colors are fully saturated.